Hello and welcome to the show. This is the Goodwind podcast, and I'm Niko LaPalooza, your host. Thank you so much for being here. Happy New Year. I know this episode is airing mid to late January, but I want to wish you all a very happy New Year. I hope this New Year is going well for you, and I hope your intentions or whatever you set for this new year, you find a way to check back into those intentions as often as you can to make them come true. And I just celebrated New Year's. We're recording this on the 2nd, 1/2/2021, January 2nd, 2021. And this past week, I had some friends over, and all my dreams came true. All my dreams were unfolding in a moment better than I could have even written them. A couple episodes ago, I was speaking my intentions out loud. This episode, I was on some mushrooms. And look, you can't write some stuff. There's such a beauty, like getting people together and just the right amount of structure, but also just completely letting go and just allowing the group to, when you're with the right people, just the best things come up. And it's not no structure. It's not nothing. Like I love hosting. I really love hosting things. I love what is it about hosting? I like getting the house ready. It gives me little things to think about, like little Easter eggs, if you will, to plant around the house, like little treats and unexpected pleasures for the guests to have. So I like to, make special food that I wouldn't normally make. Set up an activity that it might not even be. I've set up a few things for the people to come through, and some of them didn't get used, but I like setting them up and just opening up that avenue, that opportunity. So people came through and they ended up spending the night. So they came through on the 31st, and it was just a lot of good food. I made a stew. This stew's so fun. I love this stew. I'm going to share this stew. This episode starts with a stew. Is brought to you by Beef Stew. And it's a worthwhile recipe. So hang in there. And it's a Bordeaux. I'm not a chef, but I've worked in some kitchens, and I worked in a commercial kitchen recently with a proper chef, and they gave me this recipe. It wasn't like a recipe as much as it was like principles of stew. So I used to just make a stew by taking raw components, raw vegetables, raw meat, and throwing them in a crock pot. I'm like, well, if I just cook it slow enough, the meat will be tender and everything will be good. But, the potatoes never kind of got there. The vegetables never kind of got there, and the meat ended up being chewy. So what this chef told me to do is you take each component and you can sear, like the meat, for example, you put a sear on it. The vegetables, you put a pan fry on it. The potatoes, of course, you can put a fry on it. And you season all of the components individually, and you add them to the crock pot one at a time. So this stew is so simple, and the time is about a half hour. So potatoes and onions. You caramelize the onions and you fry the potatoes. Salt, pepper, maybe some garlic powder. That goes in the crock pot. I take the meat. Now here's the tricky part. I'm laughing because this is definitely not a cooking podcast, but I think you'll like this. You take the meat and you put a coat of flour. So you have a bowl of flour and salt. The seasoning is in there. So you let the meat get to room temperature. You pull it out. You salt the meat. And then you roll it in flour just to get a flour on the coat. It has some of your seasoning. I just did what I do. Just salt, pepper, and flour. And then you pan fry the meat. You don't cook it through. You just sear it, all the sides. And then you throw that in the crock pot. A cup of red wine. It doesn't have to be a cup. I don't know these measurements. A Bordeaux cooks with red wine. So red wine, olive oil, tomato paste, some beef broth, because I wanted to bring the liquid level up a little bit. That's it. I sauteed some carrots and I threw them in there too, just for shits. And I cooked it for 7 hours on low in a crock pot. That's the beautiful thing, is like once you do all that like preparation, it just cooks and gets better and better and better over the course of time. So that's my beef stew recipe, and I recommend you try it, man. It's so fucking good. It's so good. So we had a beef stew, made some mulled wine. Mulled wine is basically wine with some spices in it. My dad made ribs. So just really good food. We had some vegetarian sides and stuff for people. And it's the kind of group, I had nerves before people arrived. I don't know what that is. It almost felt like a ceremony where before people came over, there was like, I guess, anxiety. But I couldn't like pinpoint where or why or how. I'd been looking forward to them coming over for like a month or two. We'd planned it. So the anxiety was like, it almost didn't feel like my own. It felt like I was feeling people's anxiety, like driving to my house. I know it's hard to prove or like conceptualize logically, but it really didn't feel like my own anxiety. I felt ready like to see these people. We've all been together like at parties before, and have known each other decently long. Like most people have come over here a couple times already. So, and that was part of the beauty, because once people got here, the anxiety like was completely dissipated, and it seemed so effortless. Conversation was just nice. There was no struggle pretty much the whole night. It's just easy conversation, easy people to be around, laughter. It was the kind of crowd that like you could dance. I don't know if I'm getting more brave or if I was comfortable around these people or a little bit of both, but like if you wanted to bust out a dance solo, you could do it. No one would make a big thing about it, or someone might even join you. Oh, fuck. We were dancing after we ate, and a Soul Train started happening, which was like a dream of mine without cultural appropriating, What's up with cultural appropriation? I kind of want to unpack cultural appropriation right now. Not that Soul Train is the perfect, I don't know, it's not like the perfect, Soul Train might not be the best example. Is there a difference between people, white people, and non-African American people of color dancing Soul Train compared to like white people with dreadlocks, or some of the tattoos I have Arabic tattooed on my body, and I'm not Arabic. I just don't fully get cultural appropriation, and particularly as the world is more and more connected. There's more and more physical evidence for the connection of the world, i.e. the internet. The invention of the airplane, the invention of the camera, right? Being able to see different parts of the world without visiting them. It's like, where's the line between cultural appropriation and inspiration? I'm bound, I'm locked into the expression of my ancestors. That doesn't seem adaptive. That doesn't seem like a way to survive. And as we know, or as I know, and I think you do too, it's not the strongest and it's not the smartest animal that survives, species that survives. It is the most adaptable. And humans are definitely not the strongest, right? We can look at our primate brothers and sisters, our cousins, and I think a chimpanzee, which is shorter in stature than us, maybe the same weight, lifts 5 times as much as us. The average chimp lifts 5 times as much as like a strong man. So we're not the strongest. The smartest, I think in a way, it doesn't help my thesis, which is the most being the most adaptable is the most advantageous for procreation. But I think our intelligence is social intelligence. Our intelligence is adaptability. And maybe I'm not doing us any favors by comparing things like intelligence and adaptability and strength. Like I'm isolating them and comparing them. My point is being adaptable is really is key. I think it's the reason we've made it. Like it's the reason we've been able to, humans, Homo sapiens, we can live anywhere in the world. That's adaptability. And a fair bit of intelligence. Okay, so we don't know. So, being intelligent, strong, and adaptable seems to be the most important things. But to see someone's culture. Now, how about this? Maybe the line for cultural appropriation is if I'm making money from another person's culture, that feels like appropriation in a sense. If I'm making money from someone's culture and not recontributing back to the culture, that feels a little... You might be able to sell me on that one as being wrong, if you will. But, that doesn't apply to me. That doesn't apply to people's hairstyles then. Like, how many white people who have dreadlocks or cornrows are making money from that? I've seen like UFC fighters put cornrows in their hair, but that seems like a more of a utilitarian, functional thing. I guess they have to shave their head. They can't have long hair and fight. I need more on cultural appropriation. It seems like a reason for people to be upset. It feels like a reason for people to say, well, that's mine, therefore it's not yours. And it feels like more of the same. It feels like fighting fire with fire because white people who have colonized, who have said, hey, this is mine, even though it's not. White people are the most famous examples of colonialism, but not the only examples. So to combat that by saying, okay, well, you know, tattoos are not of your culture, white people. What am I trying to say? If I'm being honest with myself, I think it's more healthy to share in creative expression as much as possible. I think allowing for the most diversity, I think the celebration of diversity is ultimately a form of unity. Because things tend to become their opposites when taken to the extreme. So we need to celebrate diversity in unity's sake. So where is cultural appropriation wrong would be like exploitation. Exploitation, I think, is different. I think fighting cultural appropriation, creative expression, is not getting at the root of what you're even trying to say. And I don't think it protects culture. I don't think it protects... I think awareness education does a better job at protecting culture than not allowing someone else to enjoy. I don't know. So we did Soul Train. We danced the Soul Train. We did it. And you know what? It was a dream I've had for a long time. I loved watching Soul Train as a child. It was before my time, but it would come on. When would it come on? It would come on like infomercials would sell Soul Train records and like CDs in the 90s. And I just watching the people dance, and something about the format, people lining up, creating a tunnel and like supporting it with movement. And yeah, like observing, and then if you don't know what Soul Train is, which you do, there's a line on each side, people facing each other. They're separated about 10 feet, and they're facing inward, creating this kind of hallway of people. Whoever's at the top, or the top of the Soul Train, there's two people, one from each side. They dance down the hallway of people all the way down until they become now the bottom of the line. And then the people at the top dance down. And it's like this never-ending cycle of like dancing and creating a tunnel of dance. A tunnel of dance. It's the Soul Train. And shit, I love it. I love it so much. And it finally happened. And it happened organically. Everything happened organically this weekend. And like no force. Like the Tao was on our side. All of these dreams I've been programming into my psyche, into myself, they're just kind of manifesting. So we Soul Trained, we danced, and then we ended up playing some games. We played a game where everyone had a piece of paper and a pencil. You wrote down a question. The sillier, the better. The more personal, the better. The more raunchy, the better. We gave the papers back to someone who was collecting, and then they dispersed the papers back out. Now you had a paper with a question on it, and you wrote an answer to that question. You gave the papers back again, and then the papers were redistributed. Now, we're in a circle of 8 people, 9 people. Someone read their question, and then the person to the left read the answer that was on their paper. So the questions and answers didn't match up, but it created like this silly thing where it'd be like, where can I masturbate? And then the next person would say, like, answer their question, like, in a wheel of cheese. I don't know. Fuck. You see how the game could be fun though, and it was pretty fun. There was a few zingers. People were making fun of each other, like, why does Lisa look like a samurai boy? And then the answer would be like something. This podcast is a little scattered, and I can feel it. And I've drank now and smoked 2 days in a row. After being sober now for months, I did indulge in some cannabis and some champagne. Lots of champagne and a fair amount of cannabis. And it was like riding a bike. Smoking cannabis was like riding a bike. It wasn't that difficult to get back into. So after we played the game, we all came up into this room that I'm filming in. And it was like 11 p.m., 10 p.m. at this time. So the transition into the new year ended up happening in this very room. In this room that I've spent so much time in. I've put so much prayer into this room. I've suffered in this room this past year. And just spent so much time in like loving and fighting and going through toils and setting goals and doing art. So much in this room. So for us to just kind of naturally come up here, we sat in a large circle. All of a sudden, the instruments got busted out. We were smoking. I put a candle in the center. Things were just flowing. Someone gave me sage. I lit the sage, and I didn't feel ashamed or weird about like saging the room. Like, it felt so natural, and I noticed that like when I was saging the room, people would start to open up. There was laughter. When we were singing, people's voices were opening up. We went around and people started to pray and share their intentions. Someone mentioned, hey, does anyone have intentions for the new year? When midnight happened, we were in the middle. Everyone was jamming together. 9 or 10 people, whatever it was, were in this room singing. And I've been praying and setting intentions for music, bringing music into my life, bringing dance, bringing song, being able to share music with millions of people, with anyone, bringing them joy and awareness and the sense of love. And for 2021 to literally start in a music circle, like singing unabashed, like I really let go, improvised and freestyling and exploring my voice low to high and being silly, and it allowing other people to open, and then being quiet too, so that other people can sing and express themselves. And I was playing the djembe, both quiet and loud. And once there's something about falling into a flow, and you can really play anything. Particularly if someone can hold it down. What happens in a music circle is if there's someone that can hold down a heartbeat, and that could be on the drum. Oftentimes it's on the drum. But in this case, we had Mason who held it down on the guitar a lot. He could play a chord progression over and over again without fault and just kind of like hold it down and even add some complexity and do the thing, proper musician. And I'm decent on the darbuka, which is it's like a snary sounding hand drum. And I could really just giving myself to the flow. The cannabis helped. The champagne actually helped. The prayer and then the community feeling supported. It helped. So I can hold it down now. I can reinforce the foundation that was being laid down by Mason. And I can reinforce the foundation. And all of a sudden someone else in the circle can start to freestyle or improvise or go rock the boat, When the boat the foundation is when the hull is deep and secure, people can rock the boat and it won't tip over. And then I would hold it down. I would hold down a rhythm, and all of a sudden, like, Mason could go off a little crazy. Madison, like, there was just people who were sharing their voice, and it was all so beautiful. And it was silly too. There was just a lot of silliness. Like, when we first went around and talked about intentions, like, it was almost like childlike and goofy. And like, what I noticed about people sharing intentions was, and I said this at the time too, I said, these intentions they were all altruistic. They were all very, I want the world to get back on track. People to find a sense of peace. Loka samasa suki no bhavantu. May all beings be happy and free everywhere. And may my actions contribute to this happiness and sense of freedom. And it's like, that's great. Yes to that. But I also kind of want to hear and want to share my egoic desires. I want to share my intentions that, like, that'll feed my ego as well as my soul, like, feed my desires, my personal desires, so that I can truly give, feel in my power, and then give from a place of feeling that power. That's what I was called to in that moment. And so I shared, like, wanting this podcast to grow, and I shared my desires to want to make music and to share it, and abundance and prosperity in money and sex. And I shared my vision to help restore the bison population back to the Great Plains, and which was more altruistic. But my point was, I kind of wanted everyone to not just share what's nice to share in a group about altruism, but to really embrace yourself too, and to not be afraid to speak those desires into a group. We can hold you. We can support you in those desires. Like, those don't have to be fully personal. You can speak those, and there's a power to speaking them in a group that can be supportive. And so that helped the group. And it was, look, being in my space, the space that I spend most of my time in, there was a leadership, and coming into my sense of being a man and being a leader, I'm really taking this responsibility seriously. I'm making sure things are neat and ordered, that people who maybe don't have the bravery to speak can cultivate this sense of feeling safe so that they can open up. The people that tend to talk a lot or to take up a lot of space, checking them every once in a while. Hey, maybe it's time for a little, not publicly shaming them, but if someone's just like dominating the sound space, I'll let it go for a half hour, depending on what they're doing. But there did come a time where I'd be like, hey, now's the time for a pause. Gentle. And then they got it, And standing firm in this power and taking ownership of this space felt really, really good. And it's not something I would do in other people's spaces unless it was asked of me or unless the moment was ever so. But being in this particular space, hosting, and stepping into that responsibility fully, it really, really supported me, and it really made for a beautiful night where I felt like everyone at least felt their heart or shared their heart at some various point. So we brought in the new year singing and laughing and speaking our intentions out loud and, praying a little bit. I was lighting cedar and sage and blessing myself and blessing the room. And then it just slowly winded down, It winded down. People would leave, like, kind of one or two at a time. And every time they left, we sang So Long, Farewell, Avita Say Adieu, or Avita Say Goodbye from Sound of Music. And everyone had, like, a unique exit, and it was just funny and beautiful. I felt very fortunate. I feel very fortunate to have been able to spend that time with those people. And then they slept over, and we had a awesome morning too. You know, I did say out loud, I'm like, we have breakfast, and then we have jujitsu and dance and contact improv, and then we're sledding, and then we have a Settlers of Catan tournament, and then we're watching the whole series, the trilogy of Lord of the Rings, back to back to back. And then you guys can go. And we did most of those things. We had breakfast, we drank some coffee, and we talked, and we like danced even a little bit in the morning. And then we went sledding, yo. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Then we did jujitsu. We went downstairs in the basement. There was 4 people that trained jujitsu. One was a woman, she's Grace. She was a blue belt, tough as nails, but so small, so tiny, but scrappy and tough. And she kneed me in the face so hard to start. Oy. And then my brother, who's a purple belt, but he's coming off an injury, but his presence was felt. Mason, who's a white belt, but has been training a lot and has good body awareness, good strength, and likes to compete. And then Eric, who's really new to the game, but enthusiastic to learn. And so we all went down into the basement, and it kind of just turned into like a king. I just ended up staying on the mat pretty much the whole time, and I rolled with Grace. I rolled with Eric. Me and Eric's match went like just a couple minutes, but Grace and I rolled for like 15 minutes, catch and release style. And I thought we were just all flowing, because then Mason comes in and he talks about his arm was injured. So I kind of just like play the bottom position and like settle into half guard. I pull half guard. And but then he turned it on. He started smashing me, driving his shoulder into my face. I'm like, okay, I didn't know we were going this hard, but now that I got myself here, I can't back down. Not in my house, That's a funny thing how the ego comes up. It's like the sense of ownership and the sense of like being in this home is vulnerable. Like I have the most to lose, but also it's empowering. It gives me the motivation to go on and to really push myself too. Like rolling in this house, or I imagine like rolling in your home academy, or if you own an academy, and that sense of ownership empowering you, but also making you feel vulnerable. Like from that vulnerability comes a place of power, actually, and energy. And so I wasn't going to lose. I wasn't going to surrender or submit. Even though he maintained top position for a long time, I was having a hard time getting out, because usually in the half guard, I eventually work for that near side underhook, and it leads to a sweep. And I couldn't get that near side underhook, and I kind of felt stuck. So I had to like force a scramble. I had to give up position to force a scramble. And I forced 2 scrambles and got to my feet. He got to his feet. I did a snap down. I was a little frustrated because of how he was driving his shoulder into my face. And because I thought we were going to be taking it easy, he mentioned he was injured. And then he came in strong, Pissing me off, dude. It pissed me off, yeah. So we got to our feet, and I'm like, all right, I'm staying on top now. That's what I said in my head. And I let my emotions kind of get it, and I grabbed the back of his head, and I had his wrist, and I snapped him down and did basically a collar drag with a foot sweep and brought him to the ground, knee on belly, and I think he reversed it. I think he got back on top, but I established, and I ended up in closed guard, which nothing was really going in the closed guard. We were doing no-gi too, so I couldn't get my collar sleeve grip, which I normally get. And so it was kind of inevitable that he was coming out of it. So we ended up forcing another scramble, but I caught a triangle. cinched it up, and we were kind of off the mat. So he says he stopped trying, but I don't know. I had the triangle locked it up, and forced the submission. So so this is like a lot of ego speaking, but this is what's coming up, you know. This is part of jiu-jitsu. And I think I should keep training with him. I like training with Grace and then even with my brother, who even injured, you know, and not even going. I'm just like, oh, it's still a little nightmare to wrestle with him. He's just getting really good at recovering his guard. I wonder when I will be blessed with the day to submit my brother again. I just don't know if it's gonna happen. He's getting good, and he has time. He has youth on his side, and that strength. So we did jiu-jitsu, and then everyone ended up coming down, and like we kind of were dancing and talking, and I was in this jiu-jitsu place. I just gone 5 rounds in a row with no time limit to submission. So I like wrestled for like 30 minutes. And then it's just spontaneously, hey, it's time to sled. Let's go sledding. Everyone puts on their snow pants, their boots, their mittens, and all that shit. And we grab the sleds and we walk to the hill, back of the house. My dog's there. And we just start sledding. And it was so fucking fun. Oh my gosh. There was like snow feels pure, right? The purity of snow, it's beautiful white. It covers the whole ground. And I just like reverted. There was a few times like sledding. My brother was there where I just like, I felt like the innocence and childhood of just like wanting to be close to my brother. And like there's snowball fights, and I took the sled and it was saucers and I filled it up with snow and dumped it on everyone. And it was only laughs, and the sledding hill's pretty bomb. It wasn't too fast. It wasn't too slow. It was just, it's just so fucking fun. Oh man, such a good time. And for those of you who haven't sledded in a while, you have to walk up the hill every time you go down. So we had a proper ass workout, you know, sledding down and walking up a snowy hill, you know, trudging up a hill like 10, 20 times. But also at the same time, not feeling burdened, not feeling the burn in my legs, because I was just having so much fun, because I was distracted by getting to the top of the hill so I can sled back down. Yeah, it's just laughs all around. We hiked back. We ended up doing like this like photo shoot thing where someone had portrait mode on their camera. So we all took these like silly ass photos, and then we came back and we ate leftovers. We ate leftovers of the ribs and shit. I don't know. What am I doing? I'm recapping the whole weekend. Yeah, this is for me. I want to look back at this episode and just remember how special of a time, how fun of a time it was to bring in 2021. And the people that were there that I got to share time with. And yeah, then it just kind of winded down. Ate some food, gathered around the couch, and kind of took naps and stuff. And then they left. And I finished the champagne that was already opened, and we watched Phantom of the Opera, and I cried. Tears of joy. Because it was more music. For those of you who haven't seen Phantom of the Opera, the Phantom of the Opera is the angel of music, according to Christine, who's the heroine of the story. And it's very musical based, so it's like, okay, 2021 is still in effect. Music is still on the front of this year. I will carry this with me for the rest of the year. This dedication to music, this dedication to singing and learning guitar and learning this craft, and so eventually I can, share. Yeah. Wow. So what a good time. What a good way to bring in the new year. I'm really looking forward to this year. I'm looking forward to continuing to create these podcasts and share myself and share this content. And thank you to everyone who came over and shared their New Year's with me. I can't wait to see you all again. And thank you for everyone listening. I hope you found this enjoyable in a sense. I hope you hear my joy and it inspires you to feel your own joy. That's what I hope and pray for you. So thank you for being here, and this has been the Goodwind.